Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Brever, and alongside me is Logan Camden. Logan Camden, that's your name, buddy. And we together just witnessed a special basketball game in Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals as the Oklahoma City Thunder take a 3-1 series lead over the Timberwolves down to the wire in this one, a 128-126 final score. And Logan, I don't think we can talk about this game without starting with what the Thunder got from all of their stars and their big three. What do you have to say about the performances of those guys coming through in really the biggest game of all of their careers up to this point, probably?
For sure. I think that's the biggest reason that OKC won today alongside their defense. Also, before we get into this, I just want to say, what an awesome game. I think this might have been the best game of the playoffs thus far. The level of intensity and defense we got out of both these teams, but with it, we got really excellent offensive execution as well, too. Both of these teams combined make 34 threes. I just thought we saw such high-level basketball play on both ends of the court from both of these teams. What an awesome game.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's the highest quality game of the playoffs that we've seen. There have been crazier finishes. In fact, the finish to this one kind of sucks because we just get an aura drain with the intentional foul battle. I do think that the NBA should ban intentionally fouling up three, but that's a conversation for another time. The level of play from both sides on both ends of the floor was absolutely spectacular. Just an incredible, incredible basketball game.
Yeah, super, super high-quality stuff because, sometimes you'll get a great defensive performance or something, but it's also interrelated with bad shooting. I just thought both of these teams were firing on all cylinders today. But the story of this game to me really is the performance of Oklahoma City's big three. I don't know whether to start with SGA or J-Dub in this game because I was impressed basically equally by both of these guys. The shot-making clinic that we saw from both of these guys, but also the playmaking from both of them. I thought the decision-making was elite in this one. You get a crazy assist from SGA late in this game where he megs somebody between his legs to the J-Dub 3, which is ridiculous. But
yeah.
And I want to give a shout-out to the Thunder Collective, too, because not only do they shoot well, but you've got some excellent backdoor cuts from Caruso in this game that I thought were crucial late. Just really high-level stuff. But the collective scoring and playmaking from both of these guys, J-Dub early in this one, getting every mid-range shot to go. SGA, too, J-Dub getting downhill, getting to the rim in transition, too, was just unstoppable. And also, at the end of this game, SGA coming up clutch. I know he ends up missing one of these free throws, but he makes the ones that matter. And, he doesn't fully collapse there. But also Chet being aggressive, confidently shooting threes. We've seen it as they've built through these playoffs. They just look so professional and so veteran, man. They look poised, Carson. And this isn't a game that you get a ton of production out of. This is a team with elite depth, but you only have one other person in double-digit scoring, and that is Alex Caruso. I really think this is a testament to the big three, them stepping up to this big stage, Western Conference Finals. Not put the nail in the coffin here, but give yourself a really nice cushion. You got smacked in the face last game, and this was a big bounce back to take this. The most crucial game of the series. I think this was the most important game in the series thus far, and it comes down to the big three, those guys doing their thing, and the collective defense that we got out of Oklahoma City. I want to give a ton of credit to Minnesota. We'll get to them because I thought they played a really excellent basketball game too, but the Thunder's big three was just better today. And hats off to SGA and J-Dub. I think this is the best J-Dub game we've gotten in these playoffs, man. I was blown away by him today.
This was an incredible J-Dub performance, but man, he has been really good in all of the Thunder's wins in this series, as has been the entirety of their big three. That's absolutely the story of how they've taken a 3-1 lead. It's been the performance of those three guys. If you were going to ask what's one of the questions you have about OKC, a lot of people I think would point to the consistency of J-Dub or the consistency of Chet offensively. Those two guys have been sensational in this series, but they came out in this game with a much more effective approach on both sides of the ball. I thought that clearly OKC was pulling the right levers after what was a really, really rough game 3 performance, but still the pressure was on them until the very final moments of this one, until that fourth quarter. They had to play at an extremely high level to put away a Minnesota team that did not want to go away. And in the fourth quarter, J-Dub gives you 14 points on 89% true shooting. I think there's no question that he is overall the hero of the fourth quarter. But Chet gives you 9 points on 90% true shooting. Shai gives you 11 points on 65% true shooting. He racks up some free throws at the end in the intentional fouling game, but also made a couple of big buckets and had a couple of huge assists. So in totality, between those three in the fourth quarter, Logan, you get 34 points on incredible efficiency. And across their 3 wins in this series, Shai is averaging 36 points, 6 rebounds, and 9 assists on better than 56% true shooting. Jalen Williams is averaging 26, 7, and 5 with 3 steals per game on 61% true shooting. And Chet is averaging 19, 6, and 2 on 64% true shooting. When those 3 guys all play that well, there is not a team on the planet that can beat OKC. And Minnesota gave them as good a punch as they can. And I think that Minnesota beats 28 teams in the NBA tonight, but not the Oklahoma City Thunder when their big 3 are all this great. J-Dub is probably the story of this one, even though I thought that Shai was their best player, just because if you think about where J-Dub discourse was at last series, with the level that he was at in games 4 through 6 against Denver, people saying that they had to move off of him. For him to respond and play as well as he did in game 7 against Denver, and then play as well as he has in 3 wins against Minnesota, it is the defining stretch of his career, and there's no question about it. I thought that he was doing a nice job of getting downhill in this one, but for the most part, man, I mean, even his finishes, he's got that tough lefty finish high off the glass early in this one, but for the most part, he's getting into the mid-range where he brought you some huge self-created offense against drop in isolation. He also has a nasty step through. I mean, it's still not coming easy to J-Dub, right? He didn't suddenly manufacture the ability to get himself a bunch of super high percentage shots. He was just being a special shot maker in this one in terms of his self-created offense. And then he knocks down 6 threes, man. And a vast majority of them are off the catch, including a couple of huge ones down the stretch in the fourth quarter off of SGA double teams. That's massive. I mean, you just need him to bring you those infusions of offense as a creator when Shai is either off the floor or just when you need anybody else to step up and bring that on-ball value. And then you need him to be great playing off of Shai. And he was both of those things in this game, especially in the fourth quarter. But Chet was also just phenomenal. Man, his aggression as a finisher around the rim as these playoffs has gone on has been so impressive. He had some great drives. He had a huge putback in the fourth quarter. He had a huge cut in the fourth quarter. But most importantly, I think, was his comfort as a shooter from deep off the catch. Quick, confident releases. That's massive. I mean, he ends up only making 2 threes, but he also made a third that was basically a 3. His foot was on the line. He's been struggling badly over these last 2 series as a 3-point shooter, and he hasn't looked confident and he hasn't looked comfortable. To find his outside shot in this way, to be that good from beyond the arc in this game, it's absolutely massive.
He hit some catch and shoots late. I just wanted to add too, dude, you see J-Dub step in confidently into a couple of pull-up threes in this game too, off of some screens that are just big too. Like, it's always a variable with his 3-point shot, but I thought he did it both. And I mean, he hit some nasty mid-range shots late. He was just nails from everywhere on the court. And J-Dub, it's weird, man. I don't know if you feel the same way, Carson. J-Dub is one of those guys that I feel like if he gets going early in a game, it's easier for him to sustain it throughout. Like, he's a very, that's a bit of a cliche, but I feel like he's a very momentum-based player where if he does get going early, which I thought was an excellent first quarter from J-Dub too, as well as the closing quarter. Yes. But he's very much a rhythm guy that where if he's getting it going, I feel like he can have a hot hand the rest of the way, and vice versa. If he starts out cold, it's a little bit harder for him to get going. But this was an absolutely magnificent game all around from J-Dub. Offense, defense, playmaking. Perfect, man.
And it was a magnificent game from Chet, too. I mentioned him finding his outside shot. He also makes some massive defensive plays at the rim multiple times, tying up Julius Randle, contesting him, forcing him into misses. And then that huge block on Jaden McDaniels in the final minutes of this game. The one thing that's been holding OKC back in these playoffs has been them shooting so far beyond their standard from beyond the arc. And I say holding them back, I mean, they've lost 4 games. They have a ridiculously high net rating. They've been the dominant team of the playoffs, but still, they haven't reached their ceiling in every game because they've been one of the worst three-point shooting teams. J-Dub, 28% from deep coming into tonight. Chet, 31% from deep in the playoffs coming into tonight. And they were massive from beyond the arc. They combined to go 8 of 13 from deep. So that was huge. And they both bring you some self-created buckets, especially J-Dub. He brought you a lot of them. But I did think that Shai was also phenomenal. Last game was such a challenge for him. I thought that Minnesota made some excellent adjustments in game 3 where they weren't picking him up as high, so it wasn't as easy for him to get blow-bys, and Rudy was playing a little bit higher out of pick and rolls, so some of the mid-range looks that Shai had been able to walk his way into or snake his way into weren't as available in that game, and he started hesitating and played just a really, really bad and uncomfortable and hesitant basketball game. He comes back in this one. He knows exactly what he wants to do. He was great as a playmaker when they mixed in zone. He was dissecting it, but on all of his drives, when he's collapsing the defense, he's looking to facilitate. He ends up with 10 assists in this game. And as a scorer, I thought that his approach was very composed. You see it from the opening minutes. He's targeting the switches that he wants. That's Dante DiVincenzo. That's Julius Randle. That's Naz Reid. That's Rudy Gobert, although Rudy actually did a pretty good job defending him in space. He was kind of just only able to get to his pull-up jumpers, and he ended up going away from the Rudy matchup off switches, which I thought was smart because I think he shot 1 of 4 when he tried to isolate Rudy in this game. But he's getting to his preferred matchups. He's finding the step back 3 a bit in this one. He's got the mid-range jumper going in a special way. And then late, like, it was just incredible bag work. Some of the buckets that he had over Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who I thought did a really good job defending him, were wildly impressive. And the mid-range shooting is like his bread and butter in this game. That's been so key for him throughout the entire postseason, of course. But he also had some great finishes in this one where he's just finding such crafty ways to force his way to the rim, rejecting screens, using a Hartenstein seal screen, just some unbelievable hesitations where he shifts gears again and gets all the way to the rim. And he's just finding the angles, man. He's banking in these tough runners. Just an incredible scoring and playmaking performance from him. It's those guys, man. To do it for 4 quarters and to do it especially in that 4th quarter makes OKC a juggernaut, just a flat out juggernaut. And you really can't give enough credit because it is extremely rare to see from a guy like Chet Holmgren, who's only 23 years old and who's only in his 2nd season in the league, to see from a guy like Jalen Williams, who's 24 and is in his 3rd season, even a guy like Shai, 26. This is the deepest he's been in the postseason, and they all summoned their best basketball when they needed it most.
They really did. I just wanted to add a few other moments from Chet where I thought you saw some really special stuff. That one closeout he attacked, and you get about 1 a game from Chet where he'll get a really clear lane and just comes flying in with a
punching
nasty
it, bro. He's punching everything these last couple rounds.
It really fires me up. Like, it's those glimpses. They give me a little tingly about what Chet's going to be doing in the future because it looks so effortless with Chet sometimes. And specifically, I really think that Chet did a good job in minutes without Gobert on the floor because the thing with Chet in those minutes is, one, there's no rim protector where you're going to have those lanes. If you have a little bit of a lane, there's nobody that's really going to be able to deter his shot at the rim because you're either dealing with a front court of like Randle and Naz Reid most likely, or J-Mac. But none of those guys can really stop him once he's got a little bit of a head of steam. Also, Chet can shoot over all of those guys. Like Gobert is the only one who can actually contest his shot too quickly on the perimeter because they're tall enough. And so I thought Chet did a really good job in those minutes. I mean, he just did a phenomenal job in general. But it's like you said, Carson, these guys are so young. And so it's not a surprise to me that we got a game like we did last time out. We're, all right, they're a little flat, and they throw it in, but moreover, you're going to get games like this, and I only think they're going to get more consistent. Chet, though, I'm so excited to see what Chet is going to look like 2-3 years from now, man, because it's going to be... He's scratching it, man. He is just barely scratching the surface right now, and already what he brings you defensively is he gets more and more confident. And like Doris mentioned this a couple of games ago, but when Chet can really, and he did this year, he played, I think Chet played in every game this year, right? I think he played in all 82.
No.
That was last year.
Rookie year. This year, he missed 50 games.
He did miss, I'm tripping. Last year, he played 82, and you actually got to see him with a runway. He was hurt the majority of this year, but once Chet really can string together games and really build on it, I think he's gonna be one of the best players on the planet, man. Oklahoma City is so comically loaded. And final thing on OKC, you're talking about their shooting, dude. They've been down this entire series compared to the regular season. Cason Wallace, elite 3-point shooter, really good one, 28% in this series, man. Like Lou Dort is at 35%. Aaron Wiggins, 25%. Isaiah Joe, 20%. And so it really is J-Dub, Chet, and SGA handling business. And also SGA hit some nasty pull-up threes in this game, too. That was huge. But you're right. That's the one thing that I'm still waiting to see from Oklahoma City, man. We're seeing the stars put it together. I'm waiting for it all to line up. The defense, the stars playing well, and the shooting. That's kind of my point. I don't feel like we've seen still Oklahoma City like really throw their best punch. Like this is a great game start to finish, but I even still feel like OKC can play better.
This is a pretty great punch overall. I mean, the big three being this great, them shooting 43% from deep. And another big thing that they pulled off in this game is winning the possession battle. This is something that they do at a historically great level, being the best team in basketball, in limiting their own turnovers and being the best team in basketball at forcing opposing turnovers. That's really how they come out and set a tone defensively in this one. They forced 13 turnovers in the first half, 23 turnovers overall. And for a while, they were controlling the offensive glass. That advantage diminished as this game went along, but they still end up with 19 offensive rebounds, which matches Minnesota. And you have to give credit to the stars there too, because Chet comes up with 4 of them. Shai comes up with 4 of them. J-Dub comes up with 2 of them. So on both sides of the ball, as scorers, in so many different ways, these guys were making elite impacts on the game. But I really do think if there's a key that you look at outside of the big three, it is that ability to just get themselves more chances, which OKC so consistently does better than their opponent, and it gives them such an extremely high floor. But to do it on the glass like they did, especially with Hartenstein really not playing that much in this game, I did think was really impressive. And there are a couple role players who I think deserve shouts, man. Alex Caruso, all postseason, has been the most confident and consistent three-point shooter for OKC. He has been the guy most willing to step in confidently to those shots quickly, if it's against a zone, if it's off an SGA double, and he made a couple of big ones again tonight, and then he also had 2 massive baseline cuts in that fourth quarter, as you said.
He
and
also
obviously
had...
They go with him for 33 minutes. He starts in the second half over Hartenstein, as he should have, and he closes as he should have.
Dude, I'm keeping giving. This was one of your best takes coming into this series that Caruso was due for a big series, and I would keep leaning on him heavy the rest of his playoffs.
He's had 3 big series. He's due for him every single time.
He's just a beast. In the first quarter, that little stretch where he has that help side block on Ant, and then he strips Randle, and they turn it into a J-Dub layup on the other end, like... That was right as he stepped on the court. Like, that was right after they subbed him in, man. It's really immediate impact with Caruso. And then, the backdoor cuts. Like, that's just easy offense. And what I loved about those, both of those cuts were, like, just perfectly timed. It was just, like, so opportunistic. And it was the exact same play both times for the easy finish. He had a quote on a podcast a long time ago that I really, really liked, man. And he said that, because Caruso's a guy that played in the G League. Caruso is a guy that really had to work to earn his keep in the NBA. And so I think a lot of guys that don't get big opportunities off rip, who aren't super highly coveted and highly drafted prospects, can learn something from Caruso. He said NBA teams aren't looking for a CFO. They're looking for a guy to clean the bathrooms. They want a janitor. And they want a guy who's going to do the dirty work. And I really think Caruso encapsulates all of that. The winning impact in that dirty work, the defense, the backdoor cutting, the spot up shooting, all the little stuff he just does, man. He's such a stud.
And on both sides of the ball, just one of the flat out smartest and most instinctual players in basketball. And that's where he just makes some massive plays that swing games and swing series and swing title outcomes, man. He truly is one of those players, and he's just shown it time and again throughout this postseason. I also thought Cason Wallace didn't shoot the ball well from deep, but he made some huge plays. He just flat out saved 2 different possessions with like tough mid-range jumpers. There's the one where Shai's pass got deflected and Cason just had to make something happen, and he did. And then there's another one where they're inbounding the ball with only 4 seconds on the clock. He makes a big shot. So those were a couple of really timely, tough buckets they needed. out of him. He also comes up with 3 offensive rebounds, secures some huge possessions, has 2 separate steals where he strips Rudy Gobert. So those are the 2 guys who you look at throughout this playoff run. And even though Cason Wallace hasn't shot the ball as well, they're just such elite, versatile, high impact role players. And they were massive. But I did think the entire OKC defense, Logan, deserves a lot of credit, which is kind of remarkable in a game where you let up 126 points. I just think you have to give so much credit to Minnesota's offense for that. But what did you see from the OKC defense that was so big for them in this game?
Selling out on Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle, I mean, those were the biggest things to me. And there are little subtle adjustments that I think Minnesota should utilize the rest of this way to mitigate some of these issues, but it was them making sure Ant couldn't eat. I mean, there are so many instances in this game where Ant is drawing 3-4 bodies to the paint and kicking out, and that is where I want to give Ant credit. A lot of people were hating on Ant for the field goal attempts, looking at the box score and all that. Look, when you're facing that many bodies, you got to find the open man, and I thought Ant did that all game long. And shout out to the guys making shots. Gilgeous-Alexander Walker was on one.
Oh my God.
Dante DiVincenzo was on one. Naz Reid was balling. Like, they shot the shit out of the ball in this game. And so, look, you can be disappointed that Ant didn't shoot as much or this or that. I thought Ant was just about as aggressive as he could have been, considering the coverage that he was facing. And I was really disappointed what we got out of Julius Randle tonight, in general. The biggest thing with these 2 guys and the adjustment that I think Minnesota should make, Ant, I think they need to do more off-ball actions to open up stuff for him and less initiating from the perimeter, because I just don't think – I think if you're going to give the ball to Ant and have him work initiating from the top, I just think he's going to face a ton of bodies. I would start him in the paint and have him running off of screens at the nail or something and starting the action up there. I'm just not having him initiate in isolation a lot from the perimeter, because then the defense is going to be able to do that. So I'm trying to go with more nuanced actions for him off ball. And then for Randle, it's a really simple adjustment. I don't want Randle initiating anything from the middle of the floor. I think the middle of the floor is trouble, because he's getting trapped. He's facing a ton of bodies. I thought Oklahoma City did a really good job with that in this one, just sending timely double teams and traps, and Randle looked really flustered. Also, Randle was just getting owned in single coverage a lot in this game. If it was Dort, if it was Cason Wallace, like, he just looked flustered completely this game. But I'm done. I'm done having him initiate anything from the middle of the floor. Everything that I'm doing with Randle, with his back to the basket or initiating, is going to be from the baseline or the low block, where Oklahoma City is going to have more trouble throwing those doubles. So you're right, Carson. It is strange to be praising the defense, but I thought they gimmicked it up in the right way. And the guys that you want to have kill you did kill you. But you kept Ant and Randle from eating, which is a huge key to winning games. Like, when you can mitigate stars' impact like this, it just makes it so hard to win a game. So shout out to the supporting cast for shooting well, and shout out from the playmaking from Ant. But I thought this was the exact right defensive coverage that Oklahoma City should have turned to.
Absolutely. I thought that it was very strange how much they were allowing Anthony Edwards, I'll start with him, to just step into great looks from beyond the arc versus drop coverage last game, especially when he was red hot as a 3-point shooter. And what I said is, the Thunder should adjust in a couple of ways. When they do bring a center into the action, they should be blitzing these pick and rolls. You can't let him just walk into drop. Force him to make a decision. Trust your speed on the back end. Force, ideally, Rudy Gobert to make a play off the roll. He's really struggled all series dealing with Chet as a low man. Just trust how special your collective defense is in terms of your ability to cause chaos and force somebody other than Ant to beat you, and force Ant to beat you as a decision maker and a passer rather than just an elite 3-point shooter, which we all know that he is. They came out in this game blitzing pick and rolls. I thought that was a good adjustment. The other thing that I pointed to and said I would like to see them go with is starting Alex Caruso, going with a small ball look, taking Isaiah Hartenstein out of the starting lineup so that they can switch everything out of pick and roll, because they have a small on Rudy Gobert. They ended up doing that late in this game. They didn't start with that look, but they only play Hartenstein 16 minutes. They close with Caruso on the floor, and they have a small on Rudy, and they're switching everything, which I thought was a phenomenal adjustment. He's not walking into any easy looks versus drop coverage. He's just not getting anything easy because every single one-on-one perimeter defender who he's dealing with is a really high-level defender. So I thought that they did a great job of forcing him into some turnovers late. They're still playing drop with Chet on some possessions in this game, and I thought that that's how Ant got like one of his best looks of the game in the fourth quarter. He does just walk into a pull-up three, even though it's still decently contested by Chet. But I thought that they absolutely made the right adjustments with Ant, but where they really were just outstanding defensively in this game was on Julius Randle. In Minnesota's last 2 losses in this series, man, Julius Randle has 11 total points. He has 9 turnovers. He is shooting 3 of 18 from the field, and he's been played off the floor in both of those games. And look, man, I have been a critic of Julius Randle in the past. I don't think that this is nearly as much a Julius Randle problem as I think it is every single big bully ball forward whose game is dependent on playing a mismatch attacking style is going to be in hell against the Oklahoma City Thunder. We saw Jaren Jackson Jr. have an absolute nightmare playoff series. I think that Randle has had some of the same issues. In this one, they really, really dialed up the heat with the double teams, and I thought just forced him into a bunch of difficult turnovers, and they weren't going to allow him to get anything easy. And then also, I mean, there was a lot more pressure. There was a lot more physicality where Randle had some of his easiest drive to the basket all series last game. He actually did look comfortable in single coverage. There was none of that in this one. So first half, man, the 2 stars for Minnesota had 9 combined points. They had 5 turnovers. They were 2 of 6 from the field. So they made Randle a complete negative in this basketball game. And with Ant, they just made anyone else beat them. Like, I don't look at this as a bad Anthony Edwards game, man. I get that you look at the box score. Okay, it's 16 points, 5 of 13 shooting, 5 turnovers against 6 assists. Yeah, that's obviously way subpar production. But at the end of the day, man, what do you want him to do? Do you want him forcing up shots? Like, I thought he was still able to find some spots to get all the way downhill in the second half that were pretty darn impressive just because he's like that special as a downhill driver. I thought that he made some pretty solid reads. Like, I didn't think that Ant played a good game. He didn't play a good game because the turnovers are still too high. He needed to shoot better from beyond the arc when he did get looks. I want to be clear about that. But to look at this game and say, oh, Ant was terrible because of the box score, I don't think is accurate. I mean,
I still thought the offensive results were really good.
The offensive results were really good, and I do give Ant some credit for that. I also give a shit ton of credit to the supporting cast because OKC's idea was make these guys beat us, and my God, they almost did.
Dude, N.A. was playmaking too. I just don't think he missed this game, but 2, I just didn't know he had chops like this. Like, I know,
so nice.
I know he's a really good role, and I even think that's disrespectful because I think N.A. would start in a bunch of other places. Like, he is a awesome wing
for this team.
Yeah, no lie.
He's so much better than Mike Conley.
I thought a lot of the stuff that we got out of a lot of the Wolves tonight, outside of the stars, was really impressive. N.A. DDV. Naz Reid, like we already discussed too, but I thought J-Mac was really, really impactful in transition, in some of his pull-ups and stuff like that. And, Conley, I thought, I just want to shout out one possession because I didn't think it was like a great Conley game or anything like that. He hit some shots, but that one defensive possession on J-Dub was super, super impressive on the low block where he blocked him. Like, that just blew me away that, old ass, damn near 40 years old, 6'1" Mike Conley is walling up 6'5" Jalen Williams on the low block and blocking him. So shout out Conley.
Shooting 7 of 30 in this series.
Damn.
And that's basically what he's been doing the entire playoffs.
I'm kind of tired of Conley shooting that little offhand floater, man. I don't think I've seen him make a single one of those in this series.
It's not what it used to be. It's not what it used to be. Mike Conley is shooting 29% inside the arc in these playoffs, and he shot 38% inside the arc in the regular season. Genuinely one of, if not the worst inside the arc scorers to be a starting guard.
For sure.
Period. Especially on a team that is in the Western Conference Finals.
No doubt. But it's disappointing, man. Like, this is one of the best games we've gotten from role players and a team's bench in the playoffs, period. And You end up losing this one by 2, man. It's got to sting because those guys played out of their minds tonight. You can't ask for anything else from them.
I mean, holy shit, dude. 23 points and 6 assists from Gilgeous-Alexander Walker on 9 of 15 shooting as he's playing the best defense on Shai that we've probably seen from an individual. I thought he was the best in that matchup in this game, at least. Again, Shai had some wins on him late, but he made it difficult. I mean, it's all tough shots that Shai is getting against him. Donte DiVincenzo gives you 21 points and 5 assists on 7 of 11 shooting. Jaden McDaniels gives you 22 points with 4 steals and a block on 9 of 15 shooting. Like, I thought the defensive strategy was absolutely correct from OKC to force the ball out of Ant and Randle's hands and make other guys beat them. They just did an incredible job attacking with an advantage when they did draw 2. Now, obviously, the turnovers are a huge part of the win, and forcing Ant and Randle into 10 turnovers is massive for OKC. They also were able to overwhelm some other guys even when they were attacking with an advantage. Like Rudy has a couple of turnovers in this one. They turn it over a couple times trying to get Rudy the ball. Donte DiVincenzo has a spot early in this game where he catches the ball at the nail and he turns it over. So overall, again, I do think it was the right strategy, but special shooting from Gilgeous-Alexander Walker, special driving and finishing from him in the lane. I mean, just some beautiful work around the rim off the bounce. He hits a pull-up 3 versus drop. He has a nice floater. And like you said, man, there's a little stretch of this game where he's running the offense. Like he's got a nice find to Naz Reid off the roll while he is bringing elite defensive pressure. I just thought he was their best player tonight. I thought Gilgeous-Alexander Walker was the best player for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and he's an A-plus role player. Like, yeah, this was a ridiculously good performance. Obviously, he doesn't shoot like this night after night. It had been a difficult 3-point shooting postseason for him, although he had shot well from deep in the last couple games. But man, just an all-around A-plus performance from him. And DiVincenzo, the one area in which I would be critical of OKC's defense is the number of times that they flat out lost DiVincenzo in the corner. Like that is the guy who I am, first of all, least inclined to help off of for the entire Minnesota offense. He's their best 3-point shooter. And there's a couple times where Minnesota does a really good job of smartly setting pin-ins where it's just really difficult for SGA to get around a screen. He got caught a couple times and let Donte just shoot wide open corner threes. There was one possession in the fourth quarter where I'm not totally sure what happened. They just lost DiVincenzo somewhere. So like it was great shooting from him, and he's had a rough shooting postseason, so that was big, but every shot he made was wide open, like wide open. So you can't let him get that sort of shot quality. But Jaden McDaniels all playoffs. I mean, his inside the arc scoring as a driver, as a mid-range shooter, he goes at Chet a couple
he is
times
finishing
and gets good
through
shots.
traffic tough. I mean, 2-3 bodies sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm blown away. And like we knew he was taking this leap, but it's really, really encouraging to see it happen on such a big stage. I mean, McDaniels, I think, was Minnesota's best player in the first quarter.
He was really good, and he absolutely just has taken things up a level offensively. I mean, slow start to the season for him, but the second half of the year, the playoffs, he has been absolutely money.
When you can combine, I really like when guys who are super impactful defensive players also are really good transition scorers and finishers because it's like a stacking attribute that you can just combine, like J-Dub, like Jaden McDaniels, like Jaylen Brown, right? Like guys like that who are really, really good defenders, but also elite transition scorers. It's just,
For sure.
It makes for games where you can just have explosions and run away with games, man. It's a really special skill set. I mean, I'm really glad that he took this leap too, because when you're paying McDaniels, it's not an egregious contract, but you never want to be paying that kind of money for like a really one-dimensional player. And so I think it was important for the future of this team for him to take an offensive leap for the viability of the rotation. And so I'm super impressed. I've been really excited. You know, it was a really big limitation to this team offensively last season, and it just hasn't been in these playoffs. He's been excellent.
The one guy who has been a limitation offensively for Minnesota is Mike Conley. I mean, I've talked about this before. I just think his drop-off being as precipitous as it has been from last year is really significant. And I just think that both Gilgeous-Alexander Walker and Donte DiVincenzo should be playing a lot more than him. And they did in this game, but I mean, they're just way bigger scoring threats. I also think that they're more impactful defensive players. Donte just has such great instincts. He's such a big play guy defensively. He's gotten fried by Shai on an island in this series, but So would Conley. Like, I think that unfortunately, the major scoring limitations you're getting from Conley inside the arc are just a real problem. And you see it if you run him off the line, like, you've basically negated the possession. It shouldn't be that easy. Like you say, all he's got is the floater, man, and he's just not hitting them, hasn't been hitting them all year. So I think the Minnesota's done. I mean, you're down 3-1 against a team that I think is better than you, but I would like to see them make that adjustment. I'd also like to see OKC make the adjustment of taking Hartenstein out of the starting lineup and going with Caruso. I know that they're up 3-1 and they haven't had to make that change, but we talked about this when they have gone with Chet as the lone big in these playoffs, or when they've gone with Chet at the 5 without Hartenstein, they're like a plus 22 net team. When they've gone Hartenstein without Chet, they're like a plus 18 net team. When they play them together, they're like an even net team. So your best looks have been when you go with only one big at the 5, usually Chet, and Chet's just playing at a really, really high level right now. Best playoff basketball that we've seen out of him. Because you have your most speed defensively, you have your most shooting offensively, and particularly in this matchup, those are the two key things because you need maximal shooting around Shai, especially as they load up on him and if they try to play zone and etc. And defensively, when you're putting 2 on the ball, it's more important that you have speed to make those rotations because you can't be slow on closeouts against a Minnesota team that's shooting this well when you're doubling to begin with. And when you have Hartenstein on the floor, he's the slowest guy in your rotation. So I just think it's important that they prioritize speed and shooting. That means taking Hartenstein out of the starting lineup. We'll see if they actually do that. Dagnall has been pretty insistent upon sticking with that. But you really have to give so much credit to Minnesota supporting cast. Like, they could not have played better. They just couldn't get stops. And I don't even think that that's the fault of their defense. I thought that they brought pressure. I thought that they forced OKC into some turnovers where they sped them up, but down the stretch, the shooting was just too good. The finishing was just too good. And it was really just OKC playing some of their best basketball, having to meet Minnesota at an incredibly high level. We do have some super chats I want to get to. Pablo Sanchez says, Tahulu, Godzilla, King Kong as big 3. For real, dude. Unbelievable.
I mean, they've got a chance to be one of the best ever. I mean, this trajectory that they're on. Like, seriously, if they can stick together, if they can do this, I think they're going to win the chip this year. It's just so crazy that they have been this good, this young. I mean, Carson, I can't think of has there ever been a trio like this young and like Russ, KD, and Harden?
I would say the closest, and this is the comparison that I've drawn a few times, is probably what you had with the Warriors a decade ago. But to be fair, they were a little bit older. Like, they were all 24 to 26, but that's not really that much older. Chet's 23, J-Dub's 24. Those guys just got into the league a little bit older. But I think if you look at like the 2015 Warriors, that's a very special big 3. But I do think that Chet has a higher ceiling than a Draymond Green, as much as I love the guy. So I think that the fact that the Thunder have 2 guys with like actual top 5 sort of potential, one guy who's already obviously stamped as a top 3 player as is, but another guy who has so much room to continue to grow into, it's definitely one of the most special young big 3s that we've ever seen. I think that the OKC one of the early 2010s is a good shout too, but as great as Harden was, and he was great, he still wasn't in a role to have quite the impact that we're seeing J-Dub and Chet have in this run. Obviously, he could have. The guy broke out the next year and was averaging 25 points per game and leading a really good Houston offense, but he wasn't having the sort of top 30 impact that Chet and J-Dub both are. He wasn't far behind it, but I think that those are the 3 that you have to bring up when you're talking about being this great, this young, and it's crazy what they're doing, and it's crazy the level that they were all at in this game. Eli Switzer, the Thunder defense is unbelievable. They make every superstar look regular. They give up so many corner threes due to it, though.
I mean, I think that's really specific to this matchup, but again, I think that's the smart trade-off that you make with this team. I'd rather concede those shots to the supporting cast and let them kill me, but it is. And it's also a testament how often, I know that we're talking a lot about them trapping and them making smart rotations in this collective defense too, but I also want to give them credit for being just great defenders in isolation too, because it's not always, it is Kaysen holding up one-on-one versus an Anthony Edwards. It is Dort and Caruso hanging on Randle one-on-one too. Like, they're a great collective. I mean, Carson, you made the video on it, dude. This could be the best defense
Made the
in.
video.
Yeah, y'all can check it out on this channel after you're done
Mm,
watching the live. Shout out y'all. But this could be the greatest defense, in decades. They are
yeah.
ridiculous. And again, maybe this isn't the best game to do it from, but I thought it was the right strategy, and Minnesota played well off of it, man. This
Yeah.
personnel is some of the best in my life. I think it is the best of my life.
The corner 3-point I do think is specific to this series, and that's the thing. Like, they can adjust to whatever they need to do against their opponent. We saw it in the Denver series, right, where they're bringing a ton of baseline doubles on Jokic, and so their priority is really taking away those cuts and forcing him into a bunch of turnovers and limiting his scoring volume. Then they come into this series, and yeah, it's forced the ball out of Ant and Randle's hands, and that does mean allowing some corner threes at the benefit of also taking away the scoring of the Stars and forcing them into a bunch of turnovers. If we see the Thunder play Indiana, I don't think we'll be seeing this. We won't be seeing putting two on the ball. We'll be seeing switching everything. And I think that that's why they can pose some really unique problems for the Pacers offense, because I think that that is like the formula that is kind of the only way to slow down the machine that they do have with their ball movement, their collective shooting, is you just trust everybody's ability to defend on an island. You're not giving up those advantages when you have great perimeter defense of the caliber of these Thunder. And it is a special perimeter defense. Absolutely. And like, the power of their defense is not that you're never going to have a good game against them. Obviously, we saw last game how productive Minnesota's offense was. And in this one, their overall offense was still productive. But if you're a star and you think that you have the defense figured out, you don't. We saw it with Jokic last year's, where games 2 through 4 were the worst in terms of a 3-game stretch in his playoff career. And then game 5 was a masterpiece, and game 6 was really good. And he started getting a better understanding of what he was seeing. He was finding his shots. He was taking better care of the basketball. He was getting a sense of which passes can I try against this defense? Which passes can't I? When can I quickly attack in single coverage? He was doing special offensive player stuff, as you expect out of him. And then game 7, they just hit him with a nuclear bomb. They've got a new strategy. They're bringing an insane level of pressure and physicality, and they force him into a really rough game. Anthony Edwards, for the second half of game 2 and game 3, had been flat out phenomenal. And he comes into this series and they give him a different look and they take him out of rhythm as a scorer, and they make life hard on him. And what they did to Julius Randle and what they've done to him in 2 of the last 3 games, it's just unspeakable, man. I mean, just really, really incredible stuff. So they're always going to find the answer. They may have a down game. There may be a game where the offense feels comfortable against them, but they're not going to allow that to continue. And I think that that's such a superpower, and it's why they're the team that they are, and it's why they won 68 games, and they're on the verge of the NBA Finals. Jalen Green, not going to lie, had to turn to ESPN2. Doris Burke is awful. Thoughts, Logan?
I'm not gonna lie, man. I'd be seeing a ton of sentiments online about people hating Doris Burke, and I don't get it. I love Doris Burke. I've always loved Doris Burke. I think sometimes the way that Richard Jefferson talks to her on the broadcast is frankly disrespectful, and degrading. I think Doris Burke is a basketball legend, and I always appreciate her insight. So I know she has her fair share of haters on the internet. I love when Doris is on the call. She's stamped. She's certified.
I usually really do like Doris. This has probably been my least favorite series from her that I can think of. The number of times that she has said this is why they call Shai a foul merchant really makes me cringe, and I think does a disservice to the game, because it's your job as a broadcaster to illuminate the truth, right? To talk about what are the falsehoods in the discourse, to challenge some of these things, to talk about, okay, why is Shai so difficult to guard without fouling? And if you think, okay, that's a grift, that's not a foul, that's fine. But when he cleverly does draw a foul that gets to line, or when he does clearly just get fouled, and then you say, this is why they call him a foul merchant, like, all you're doing is feeding into a narrative that I think is already counterproductive and is misinformative in so many ways. And I really like how Richard Jefferson actually challenged her on that. I like that he brought up, hey, I had a number of years
No,
where
not
I
in
averaged
not
8
in,
free throws a game. In fact, can I just give a real fun stat real quick?
Yeah, sure.
I looked this up. Richard Jefferson in the 2004 playoffs, which was 11 games, his run, like a legitimate sample size, averaged 9.8 free throws per game. That is more free throws than Shai is averaging in these playoffs.
I had no issue with anything he said to her in this game, but there's been instances where I don't know, he'll check her and I'm like, all right, bro. Like, I don't know,
I see what you're saying.
he'll correct her in a way that makes Doris seem stupid. And I don't like that. It's not bad because I enjoy Richard Jefferson. I think they're a solid duo. I think my favorite is probably Van Gundy and Breen in them, but there's just been a couple of moments in this series where I'm like, all right, Richard, you ain't got to. He's talking to her like she's a middle schooler. And I'm like, it's Doris Burke, man. She gets it.
No, I get what you're saying. Doris knows ball for sure. I am a Doris fan overall, but I just think the hyperfixation on the foul merchant stuff, the free throw merchant stuff, it's like, leave that to NBA Twitter, man. Don't be like, oh, yeah, this is what NBA Twitter is saying, so now I'm going to come and propagate the same idea. Like, Doris is smart enough to know what the reality is with Shai and all this discourse. And that's just been a little frustrating and a little annoying to me. And I don't know, just the hyperfixation on some of this stuff, like too much discourse about officiating in this series, in my opinion. Luckily not tonight. Luckily we avoid that tonight. Energize says we took Marv Albert for granted. Marv is the GOAT. Kevin Harlan's probably the closest thing of this generation. Breen is also great. I mean, the play-by-play guys are really good. It's a little more difficult to find great analysts.
Y'all know Doris played at she played college ball too. Doris was a hooper, not just RJ. She played too.
Yeah. Are people going hard on Doris in the chat?
They're just saying Rich played ball. Yeah, man, so did Doris. Doris played ball too. Also, Reggie Miller wasn't even the best basketball player in his family, man. How about that? That's crazy.
That's the GOAT basketball family, maybe, bro. I don't know. I do think it's important to note that, like, the level that you were as a player often does not correspond to your level of analysis. I think there are numerous examples of that.
No doubt.
Reggie Miller literally being one of them. I think that Reggie is one of the best and most underrated players of all time. And I think that he's probably the worst broadcaster that I've ever had to listen to. He consistently says things that just boggle my mind. If it's a strategic idea, if it's an analytical point, I just think it would be really, really funny if we let Reggie Miller take control of a basketball team. Wouldn't be a good coach, in my opinion, and is not a good broadcaster, but an amazing player. So, yeah, I don't really like just pointing at, she didn't play at whatever level, even though she did play high-level basketball, as you're saying, Logan. I think that Doris knows her stuff for sure, but she's got to chill with the free throw merchant stuff, in my opinion.
I don't think she really – I don't know, man. I don't know if Doris understands fully what she's. That's the one instance.
You don't think she understands how NBA Twitter works as an older individual?
I don't know if she understands that that's like demeaning to SGA.
You have to, right? I mean, I guess merchant
she
is
just doesn't,
a very new term with
she
its
just doesn't
connotation.
Add. She just doesn't add like context to it. Is the only thing that I have that is my problem when she brings. She just says the phrase and then doesn't elaborate with any nuance. She just says it.
And it's like a game tonight where, okay, until the intentional foul game, Shai had shot 8 free throws. I mean,
also
Minnesota shot of his work.
Minnesota shot more free throws than them tonight, and they also clanged a bunch from the line.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that we'll see any discourse about officiating after tonight's game. If we do, I just can't do it, man. I mean, that would be absolutely insane. But that's been my one frustration with Doris in this series. Is this series over, Logan? Is there a way for Minnesota to come back, or has OKC wrapped this puppy up?
Julius Randle's going to play a lot better. I mean, that's the one thing that I'm most worried about. And the discouraging thing to me is just that Randle's best game in this series came when he made a lot of catch and shoot threes. And we really have not seen him get going at all in any other facet consistently, mismatch attacking, or he doesn't look comfortable. He looks consistently flustered, and he looks overwhelmed by the defensive coverage that he's facing. So I can see Ant having a great game. I can see the supporting cast having great games. I could see Minnesota winning one more. I'm not going to predict it. I honestly think Oklahoma City probably wins this next one, and this series is done. That would be my prediction.
In OKC, I think it's only been done once, and that was Denver in Game 1, which was a miracle of a win.
So I do think this series is done. I would take OKC in 5. Randle had a really great first 2 rounds. It's kind of sad that this is how he's going to go out, and this is going to be the big narrative. You know what I mean? Because like you think back to Minnesota last year, them playing Denver, super positive coming out of the second round. They were riding the wave and then came crashing down. I think that's going to happen a bit with Julius Randle. And so I don't want to pile on the guy, but ultimately he is the reason that I'm not going to pick Minnesota to win another game.
Yeah, I think OKC is in great position to close this out at home, even if they don't. I mean, they're just the better team, and now they have way more margin, right? You're up 3-1, so historically, it's a very big anomaly to not finish off the series under those circumstances. I think that their big three is playing at such a high level right now that I have the utmost confidence in them. And you have to give so much credit to Chet and J-Dub, man. I mean, all of these guys, but with Chet and J-Dub, I really do think that people tend to focus on the negatives or the questions with both of them. When I thought that they were both phenomenal versus Memphis, like I thought they both played A+ series when Shai was struggling to still make that a sweep. And then I think that they've both been fantastic in this series. So, like, yes, Denver pushed OKC 7, and part of that was obviously J-Dub playing way below his level in a few games in that series. But overall, I just think like people often rush to criticize both of those guys. And I don't know why people tend to give them an unfavorable view and take. But I think that they're both incredible. I had them both in my top 30 player rankings. I think that they're already that good. And I think they're both going to just continue to get better. And I think maybe part of it, man, is just we care so much about offense. And no, they're not the most consistent offensive players. They're both really good offensive players, but they're both giving you like top 10 in the world defensive impact every single night. And I just don't think that gets appreciated as much when that's the driving factor of this whole OKC team's greatness. And I think that's a reason that this entire OKC team has been doubted more than usual. People can't totally wrap their head around a team just being that dominant defensively and in transition and in the turnover margin, and not always being the prettiest half-court offense, still being as great and dominant as OKC is. But they are. And Chet and J-Dub are a huge part of that. And when their half-court offense is going, they're a huge part of that too. And they were tonight, and they have been in the series.
And they're only going to get better. I don't know, man. I think people hate change. I think people are afraid of change. I think they're afraid of new things. It's Oklahoma City's time to shine, man. Like we can either we can hide from it or we can embrace it.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that, but like, I don't know. I think it's more than that because obviously Shai has his own criticisms. I guess maybe you're right. Maybe just everybody on
I do
OKC
think
gets
people,
criticized. But with J-Dub, man, it gets vicious. Like people go to the point of like, he's a bum. People have been arguing this for years.
But that I don't understand because like with SGA, I can understand where people get attached to that narrative that he's a free throw merchant for one.
And he's
I don't
the
even think
face of the team. He's the MVP.
exactly.
Top 5 players are subjected to criticism,
100%.
oftentimes unfair.
And I don't think SGA is even the biggest guy that I would point to when we're talking about that issue. That's my only problem. Is just like watch Jalen Brunson play, watch Austin Reeves, watch Trae Young. It's like a lot of small guards you can point to where you go, I think SGA is just really damn good at knowing when your hand is in the cookie jar and he's going to catch you. Like it's really as simple as that. And I don't know. I really like watching Oklahoma City play basketball, so I don't try to hate like that. I don't like doing that in general. I don't like getting negative about basketball.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the Thunder, and I'm excited just to see how much better this team can get, man. So I hope that goes away. I appreciate SGA's a master of his craft, man. He is a master at what he does. It is beautiful watching him go to work.
Huge performance from him tonight. Huge performance from the Thunder tonight. I would like to see Alex Caruso in that starting lineup. I think that's their best look for Minnesota. I would like to see Gilgeous-Alexander Walker in that starting lineup, or if they wanted to go with Dante for a little more offense, either one would be okay. Shout out Rudy Gobert, I guess, for the game he played today. It was kind of a mixed bag, honestly, but 7 offensive rebounds was big. He finished better. It was a rough first quarter, but then he had a stretch of this game where he was having a pretty big impact. The path back is just too long for Minnesota, and I don't see things getting really better for Julius Randle. I mean, you can say, well, they can't get worse, but 2 of the last 3 games have been like F- games out of him. That's just what OKC does to offensive players, and that's especially what they do to offensive players in his style and offensive players who have flaws, guys who can be out of control, who can be overly reliant on imposing themselves physically against a defense that is going to meet them in terms of that physicality, guys who don't have elite handles and who can be affected by a defense that is so pestering, getting up in their handle and forcing them into turnovers, and guys who aren't always great playing against double teams and can turn the ball over in those situations. Like the formula was there for OKC to really give him hell in this series, and in 2 games, boy, they have given him hell. This is what the Thunder do, man. They're a special basketball team. They were special tonight. What a fun game. What a special game this was. We'll be back tomorrow. We got a game 4 of Knicks Pacers, which can hopefully live up to the level that this one was. That's a really high bar, but all 3 games in that series have been thrilling so far. So we hope that you guys will join us for the post game there. And we hope that you enjoy that game. We hope that you've enjoyed all of the playoffs and all of our content. If you want to watch along with us after the game, you can find all of our live streams here on our YouTube channel. You can always watch them back after the fact, of course, and you can listen to all of our episodes across all audio platforms. You can also follow us across social, TikTok and Instagram at NerdSesh and Twitter at nerd_sesh. And if you want, you can join our Discord. The link to that is at the link tree across our social media bios. So with that, as always, I've been Carson Brabber.
I've been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.